I've got a confession. I've been struggling a lot lately. The barrage of news about the climate crisis, not to mention 2 horrific wars in Gaza and Ukraine, on top of the pressures of working in the UK's broken academic system, has been really getting to me. But I know I'm not alone in that. So in this video, I'm going to share some of the ways that I try to cope with these difficult emotions. And feel free to drop yours in the comments. Lots of you tell me that you struggle to cope with the relentless bad news about climate change. And according to a new poll of IPCC authors, i.e. the world's top climate scientists, we're not the only ones. A survey conducted by The Guardian, one of the UK's major broadsheet newspapers, found that climate scientists feel, quote, hopeless and broken in the face of the semi-dystopian future that we're in for. Nearly 4/5 of the scientists polled think that temperatures will get above at least 2.5 degrees Celsius, and I'm firmly in that majority. Nearly half think it will rise above 3 degrees. Interestingly, younger scientists and women scientists were more inclined to be pessimistic. Perhaps there's something about bearing more of the costs of climate change that makes you more cynical. Basically nobody, just 6%, thought we'd meet 1.5. I'm surprised it's even 6%, to be honest. Not because we don't have the tools to get there, but because we don't currently have the political will or policies. We have a ruling class that prioritises maintaining their own wealth and status above all else. So yeah, hopeless and broken just about sums it up. We're at 1.25 degrees of warming since the pre-industrial period, and it's already bad. Scorching heat waves, killer floods, devastating wildfires, and that's just on land. We've just seen a full year of record ocean temperatures, and sea ice at both poles is at historic lows. The prospect of 2, 3, or even more degrees of heating is unimaginably awful. And living with this knowledge can be an unbearable burden. You don't have to be a climate scientist to feel that. Anyone who thinks or learns about climate change probably feels something along these lines. You couldn't be a human being, understand the problem, and not feel heartbroken. Personally, I oscillate between fear, despair, rage, and determination. And from reading the results of this survey, it seems like those are pretty common emotions. Seeing your best efforts ignored and downplayed, or even maliciously corrupted by bad actors, is exhausting. I've been working in and campaigning on climate for like 17 odd years, and I'm spent, even more so in the last few years. But my senior colleagues who have been doing this for 30 or 40 years are even more resigned and angry, because it feels so frustrating to see the end goal, to know why it matters, to feel the consequences so deeply, and to see those in power prioritise their own selfish interests over those of literally everyone else on the planet. So what's stopping us from tackling the climate crisis? According to the survey, nearly no one thought we needed more research, more technology, or more solutions to face the problem. And that's because we already have the solutions and we know enough about the science to make the changes. Almost everyone pointed towards a lack of political ambition and implementation. And inequality and the pernicious influence of vested fossil fuel interests were also very commonly cited reasons for the lack of action. One thing that stood out from the survey, though, is something that I also often say on this channel, that regardless of how high the temperature goes, every fraction of a degree that we avoid matters, because every fraction of a degree avoided will reduce human suffering. It's always better to take action than to do nothing. This attitude requires courage, to know how bad things will get and to face it anyway. To do what we can with the resources we have to make a terrible situation that little bit better. Feeling like we're headed for a scary future is no reason not to act. And this is why I try to take courage from news about climate change, and I encourage you to do the same. If we can be brave in the face of this information, we can make things better for each other. One of the best ways to fight those fears is to do something ourselves. And by that, I don't necessarily mean to eat less meat, swap the plane for a train, or stop buying new stuff. Because while those things are important and amazing if you're already doing them, it's only part of the picture. What's more important is scaling action upwards, organising amongst ourselves to demand change from those at the top. A 2021 survey showed that 2/3 of climate scientists felt that scientists should do more advocacy, while around a quarter attended climate protests. Myself, I think it should be more. One expert in the recent survey suggested that one kind of personal action that would really make a difference is civil disobedience. And I agree that direct action and protest are super effective, but you don't have to get yourself arrested to have an impact. Activism can take very many forms. Firstly, voting. In the UK, we've got a general election coming up, and more than half the world's population is going to or has been to the polls in 2024. Voting may not achieve everything you want it to, but it's a vital first step and a way to get your voice heard. If you're in the UK, I encourage you to use this tool to see how to vote strategically to maximise your vote for the climate. Secondly, making change at the local level can be super empowering. You have more access to local councillors or politicians than national ones, and more power to change things on a local scale. So petition for car-free streets or more green spaces, engage in some local food growing, chip in with your neighbours to start a community wind farm, whatever it takes. Not only will you see the change you contribute to, but connecting within our own communities builds the kind of supportive networks that are so essential to sustain us when confronted with the scary, difficult and brutal realities of the climate crisis. Thirdly, amplifying trusted, reliable and good quality information about climate change, especially online, is vital in our era of increasing polarisation and disinformation. There are people out there actively trying to sow seeds of doubt and despair. Challenge that by sharing good, evidence-based information. My videos and videos by other creators like Climate Adam, Zentoro, Simon Clark and others are a really great place to start. And if you don't know those, I've stuck a bunch of recommendations of channels to watch in the description below. If you want to support creators like me to make these kinds of videos, sharing them is such a great way to do it. And if you're able to, you can also support on Patreon. Link for that is also below. The take-home message is that we need to work together on this. Finding support and building community is so crucial if we are going to make the progress that we so desperately need. Obviously, this is not an exhaustive list of ways to fight the fear about climate change, but I hope it's a good place to start. Let me know what you do to cope with your fears around climate change in the comments below. And who knows, maybe you'll find a whole new community of people to connect with down there. And if you want to hear about a relatively good news environmental story, then check out this one about how we got together to heal the ozone hole. Look after yourselves out there, gang.